obviously divided France sort of an anger. What was so interesting this evening in Albi, where I am, in southwest France, is that Emmanuel Macron was clearly trying to, he's taken us all on board, and he was trying to spread a message of, we need to heal this now, we need some sort of form of reconciliation, because we can't go forward with a country that's this divided.
And Sophie Pepper, the Paris bureau chief for The Economist, she's just attended Macron's final rally. That election is on Sunday in France.
And once you put an electric vehicle, I mean, you have to have an electric vehicle because otherwise an internal combustion engine vehicle cannot compete on economics with the electric vehicle. So you put the three together, you take the driver out, you take an electric vehicle which has a lifetime that is 1.5 to 3 times longer than an internal combustion engine, and it's 10 times cheaper to fuel, insure, and maintain, then the economics work. So you have to have the three, the ride sharing, the electric vehicle, and the autonomous technology. But the autonomous technology is the key to enable the whole disruption.
Uber's business plan, we've had another analyst say there is no way that company will ever be profitable until there are autonomous vehicles because of the way it has undercutted its price structure. So obviously, I think it's fairly open about this being its game plan, but would that essentially be the model? It would be Uber or another company or a series of companies providing the same service but without a driver.
It's going to be, it may or may not be Uber. In China, Didi actually gave back Uber. Uber had to leave China because of Didi, and in India, Ola is giving back Uber. So it's not about Uber, it's about the business of ride-sharing. And that's becoming fairly common worldwide. And in fact, the software, there's free software today that anybody can download that's become an Uber. So it's not just about Uber, it's about that business model that combines both.
I understand, but it's the best sort of working example I suppose many people have in front of mind, and it also marries with that analyst who says they can't make money until we're there. And until we're there is the other thing, Tony, because with the electric vehicles as well, where do they need to get to? Size of battery, cost of battery, charging, the ease of charging. Where's that tipping point going to come where they can truly outperform the cost savings of a cheap old second-hand car, which we are addicted to in New Zealand with fairly generous emission standards, if any at all, you know, that you can pick up for $4,000 or $5,000 and run around. Where's the point at which the electrics, from purchase through to the size and length of life of the battery, what year or what time is going to be the critical point there?
So here's the critical thing that we found. Cars are not going to be owned by individuals. Cars are going to be owned by companies. So we don't need the charging infrastructure that people are talking about. So the Ubers or the Lyfts or whoever is going to provide that service is going to have a charging infrastructure of their own, and they're going to go from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. and charge their vehicle, and they're going to be the ones who are going to invest in that charging infrastructure. And so we see 2021 as the point where all these technologies are going to converge, and at that point, essentially, this is going to be 4 times cheaper than even owning a car, than running a car that you already own.
Okay, so that's actually interesting because I hate to say this, but right now this sounds to me like a disincentive for paying a higher cost for an electric now when you're telling me the idea of owning a vehicle full stop is on borrowed time. Because we all depreciate, right? We all pay a large amount up front often for a new car, particularly for a new electric at the moment, and then depreciate it over how many number of years. You were saying, actually, you should look at those economics right now.
Not just EV. I mean, essentially, the cost of combustion engine automobiles, are running one, even if you already paid it off, even if the cost is zero, maintaining it and fueling it and insuring it and so on, is going to be 4 times higher than essentially the cost of transport as a service. So even in a country like New Zealand, that is addicted to used cars, cheap cars, the cost of maintaining that car and fueling that car is going to be 4 times higher than the cost of transport as a service.
So the next thing though is 2021 is the point at which the battery economics get very, very competitive.
No. It's not about the battery. The battery is actually a very small component of the economics. What really makes the economics work is one, the autonomous autonomous technology, and two, the fact that an electric vehicle has a lifetime of 500,000 miles. So the companies, the Ubers and the companies that are going to, so we drive our cars 10,000 miles per year. The transport as a service cars are going to be driven 100,000 miles a year, 10 times as much. So the lifetime of the car is going to make a much bigger difference than the cost of the car.
Okay, you just asked my question then, because when 2021 is the year that's put out there, are we seriously going to have autonomous vehicles not only viable technically, but operating in an urban or interestingly in New Zealand in a non-urban, massive long skinny country environment, and credible and functional, the laws all sorted out around it? Is that all going to happen in 4 years?
So essentially we see we're going to get to level 5. Level 5 is the level of autonomous technology where you don't need a driver, you don't need even a steering wheel. Is it going to happen in 4 years? Tesla has announced that they're going to make it happen by 2019. That's 2 years away. There's a lot of companies investing billions of dollars in China, in Europe, in the US to make level 5 autonomous technology happen. Now, the interesting thing to find about this is this. Consider an autonomous vehicle a computer on wheels. So you're going to have a computing platform like you have with a computer and an operating system like you have with an iPhone or an Android. And all you need is one company to get to level 5, basically to get that operating system working in order for this to spread.
Are they legal at the moment? And of course we had that setback. It was Tesla, wasn't it? They had the fatality recently, I think. Interested to talk about one fatality when we think how many we have on our roads each year. But is there going to be legislative or other barriers to this happening?
So the legislative barriers are what may keep this from happening. Having said that, in California, up to 30 companies have already been approved, or there's a bill that to approve 30 companies by the end of this year to do autonomous technology on public roads this year, at the end of this year. And many countries, Singapore, Japan, the Netherlands are approving autonomous technology at least at the pilot stage in public roads. So a lot of competitive policy is going to happen because of the huge advantages that this is going to bring to the economy. Once you have,
I was going to say your other barrier on this, and this has always been the barrier of innovation. I mean, electric cars have been around for about a century, I think. You've got to have pushback from the vested interest. Some of the oil companies are understanding and moving and diversifying in this area. But you've also got in your country at the moment a president who's into revitalising the oil and the coal industries. And again, is it going to be possible for interest groups to somehow push back against this, or will the sheer economics and consumer action override that?
Yeah, the economics are going to override this, and if it doesn't happen in the US, it's going to happen in China, and then China's going to dominate this market. And that's like trying to stop the iPhone or trying to bring back film cameras. You just cannot do that. So the overwhelming economics are going to make this happen. And if one country decides that because of lobbies or interest groups or whatever doesn't push it back, then another country will make it happen. This is what the history of technology disruptions teach us.
Thank you so much for your time, Tony Sieber of Stanford University. 8 minutes to 10. Mike Fields, good morning to you. On your mind today?
Carlos Mike Field, by the way, so just following on from long joined that model. No, a couple of interesting things have just seems a little strange as we talk about breaking news, and obviously we're waiting for what's happening in Vanuatu, but all things relatively calm there, and they seem to know how to deal with cyclones. But just this week in Samoa, at the University of Samoa, there's just been and I didn't warn you of this, but the University of Samoa has announced that the preliminary findings of an archaeological dig in the middle of Savaii, which if anybody's been to Savaii knows is reasonably empty, They're thinking that they've found evidence of a city of at least 100,000 people. Pre-European discovery, these curious things called star mounds in the Paloli district, and the archaeologists and scientists and ground mapping radar people are now had a close look at it, and the preliminary findings are quite astonishing. Can't say much more than that because the data has yet to be published, but we may be looking at Savaii completely different soon.
Fascinating. Okay, and what are the new data from the Church of the Latter-day Saints showing what? How widespread their people are? Or?
They published over the weekend the top 10 Mormon nations in the world, and this is the percentage of the population that is Mormon. And all of them are South Pacific countries, led off by Tonga, which is now 60.23% Mormon. This is, I find this quite a credible figure. A number of people have come back at me since the data saying how can this be so, because when the last census was taken in 2011 the figure was about 40%, and they had just overtaken the Catholics as the second largest religion in Tonga. But and I don't particularly want to go into the theology of the Mormon Church because it's a rather curious and, shall we say, unscientific thing. They view Polynesians as part of a lost tribe of Israel via South America, and the non-Polynesians up until quite recently were regarded as an inferior race that couldn't enter the Mormon priesthood. But at Samoa, for example, it's nearly 40% Mormon. American Samoa, 30% more. Niue is 25%. I'm not trying to sound cynical here, but 150 years ago, when the essentially British Christian churches came into these countries, they offered various messages, if you like, and also various prospects of schools, churches, etc. The Mormons, who, you could argue whether they're Christian or not, are essentially an American religion that offers access to the United States. And just as a bypoint, most of the Samoans and Tongans who play in the American National Football League, Gridiron, reach it via Mormon institutions in Hawaii and Utah. And Tongans, for example, are the biggest Pacific population in Salt Lake City, and their Tongan population in Utah may well exceed the Tongan population of Auckland soon. What does this mean in terms of the politics? Because, for example, in Tonga, the royal family is the head of the Methodist Church, or one of the factions of the Methodist Church. But you may recall, I discussed it here about 3 years ago, one of the king's sons announced he was to become a Mormon. And the king had the police and the military, such as it is in Tonga, sent around to stop the baptism from happening. The prince subsequently has been baptized in Hawaii. And it brings into question the whole political structures of Pacific countries when this new, essentially conservative Mormon theology starts to take over.